The black sports car hit the barrier at 70 miles per hour. Keisha Taylor watched the metal twist like paper, watched the vehicle cartwheel through the air in defiance of physics, watched it plunge nose first into the Han River with an impact that sent shock waves through the bridge beneath her feet. For 3 seconds, she would count them later, over and over in her mind. Nobody moved. Phones came out. A woman screamed. Traffic stopped. But nobody jumped. Keisha jumped. The water swallowed her whole, cold as surgical steel, dark as a closed coffin. Her paramedic training kicked in before conscious thought could interfere. She kicked downward, following the trail of bubbles and shattered glass glinting in the submerged headlights. The car was sinking fast, nose down, trunk bobbing like a dying fish. She grabbed the driver's side door handle. Locked. She pulled herself to the window, shattered, thank God, and thrust her arm through, ignoring the glass teeth that tore her jacket. Her fingers found fabric, a shoulder, a face tilted back, unconscious, blood clouding the water around his temple. The seatbelt was locked tight across his chest. Keisha's lungs began to burn. She fumbled for the release mechanism, her fingers clumsy in the freezing water, and finally, it clicked. She hooked both arms under his and pulled with everything she had. He was dead weight. The car was pulling him down. Her vision started to narrow at the edges, dark spots dancing across her retinas. Not again. Something in her mind screamed. Not again. She would not let another person die. She pulled harder, kicking toward the surface that seemed impossibly far away, and then suddenly they were free, breaking through into air and noise and chaos. He coughed, spewing river water, and she dragged him toward the concrete embankment where hands reached down to help. Someone was shouting in Korean. Sirens wailed in the distance, growing closer. Keisha rolled him onto his side, checked his airway, felt for his pulse. Strong, steady, alive. His eyes opened. Just a crack, unfocused and glassy with shock. He looked directly at her, water dripping from her braids onto his face, and she heard herself say, "Stay with me. Breathe." Then the paramedics arrived, professional and efficient, and Keisha stepped back into the crowd. Her hands were shaking. Her shoulder burned where the glass had caught it. Around her, people were filming, talking rapidly, pointing at her and then at the river. She needed to leave. She didn't want questions, didn't want attention, didn't want to explain why a tourist had been standing on Mapo Bridge at 11 o'clock on a Thursday night staring at dark water. She slipped away before the police could take her statement, disappearing into the Seoul night with wet clothes clinging to her skin and the taste of river water in her mouth. What Keisha didn't know, couldn't have known, was that the video was already viral. 60,000 views in the first hour, 200,000 by morning. Tourist dives from bridge to save drowning driver. And the man she'd pulled from the wreckage wasn't just anyone. He was Yoon Taek-jin, CEO of Yoon Industries, one of the most powerful men in South Korea. And now, whether she wanted it or not, he owed her his life. If you want to hear more stories like this, stories about impossible choices, forbidden connections, and the courage it takes to dive into the unknown, subscribe and let us know. Because this story is just beginning, and what comes next will change everything. Keisha woke up in her hostel bed to 17 missed calls, and a crowd of backpackers gathered around the common room television. She shuffled in wearing yesterday's clothes, her hair still damp, her shoulder throbbing where she'd bandaged the cut herself with supplies from her personal med kit. On the screen, grainy footage played on loop. A figure diving from Mapo Bridge, disappearing into black water, resurfacing with a body in tow. "That's insane," an Australian guy was saying. "Who jumps into a river at night?" "The guy's some billionaire," his girlfriend added, scrolling through her phone. "Yoon Taek something. Owns like half the construction in Seoul." Keisha's stomach dropped. She'd saved people before, dozens of them, over 10 years as a paramedic in Atlanta. But she'd never saved someone famous. She'd never saved someone whose face was plastered across every news channel in a country of 51 million people. She was halfway back to her room when someone knocked on the hostel's front door. Not the buzzer. An actual knock, polite but firm. The hostel manager opened it to reveal 2 men in black suits and a woman in an elegant gray jacket. The woman's eyes swept the common room and landed on Keisha with the precision of a guided missile. "Ms. Taylor?" Her English was perfect, barely accented. "My name is Mrs. Baek Suman. I work for Yoon Taek-jin. He would like to see you if you have time." It wasn't really a question. 20 minutes later, Keisha was in the back of a black sedan, watching Seoul's nighttime skyline transform into a district where buildings wore price tags she couldn't begin to calculate. They stopped in front of a glass tower that seemed to touch the clouds, and Mrs. Baek led her through a private elevator that required both a keycard and a fingerprint scan. The penthouse opened up like a magazine spread, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Han River, furniture that probably cost more than Keisha's annual salary, and silence so complete it felt like a physical presence. And there, standing by the windows with his back to her, was Yoon Taek-jin. He turned, and Keisha's breath caught. He looked different, dry. Older, sharper, with the kind of face that made boardrooms go quiet. A white bandage covered his temple. His shirt was unbuttoned at the collar, exposing a purple bruise that disappeared beneath the fabric. But his eyes were what held her. Dark, intense, and fixed on her with an expression she couldn't name. "Ms. Taylor." His English was accented but clear, each word carefully chosen. "Thank you for coming. Please sit." She didn't sit. "You didn't have to send a car. I'm fine. You saved my life." He said it simply, as if commenting on the weather. "I wanted to thank you personally. And to compensate you for—" "Stop." Keisha held up a hand. "I don't want your money." Something flickered across his face. Surprise, maybe, or confusion. "I'm sorry. I didn't pull you out of that river to get a tip." She heard the edge in her own voice and didn't soften it. "I'm a paramedic. It's what I do. You don't owe me anything." "Ms. Taylor." "Keisha, and I mean it. Whatever you're about to offer, I'm not interested." She turned toward the elevator. "I'm glad you're okay. Take care of that head wound." "Wait." The word came out sharp, almost desperate. Keisha paused, looking back. Taek-jin had moved closer, and in the harsh light from the windows, she could see the exhaustion carved into his features. "You're right. I can't buy this. I've spent my entire life believing that everything has a price, that every problem has a solution if you throw enough money at it. But this," he touched the bandage on his temple, "you gave me my life back. How do I repay that?" "You don't," Keisha said quietly. "You just live it." For a long moment, they stood there, 2 strangers separated by everything: culture, language, wealth, experience, and connected by one impossible moment in dark water. Then Mrs. Baek cleared her throat gently. "Ms. Taylor, you're bleeding through your jacket." Keisha glanced down. The bandage on her shoulder had soaked through, a dark stain spreading across the waterproof fabric. She'd been too stubborn to go to a hospital, too afraid they'd ask questions she didn't want to answer. "Let me have our doctor look at it," Taek-jin said. "Please, not as payment, as basic human decency." Against her better judgment, Keisha nodded. 2 hours later, she left the penthouse with 6 stitches in her shoulder, a prescription for antibiotics she wouldn't need to fill because Mrs. Baek had already had them delivered to her hostel, and the uncomfortable knowledge that Yoon Taek-jin had watched her the entire time, the doctor worked with an expression that looked almost like guilt. For the first time in his life, the CEO had encountered something he couldn't buy. And for the first time in hers, Keisha Taylor had saved someone who didn't know how to be saved. By Friday morning, Keisha's face was everywhere. Someone had enhanced the bridge footage, zooming in on the moment she broke the surface with Taek-jin in her arms. Someone else had found her Instagram. Private, thank God. But the profile picture was enough. The headlines wrote themselves. "Mystery Woman Saves CEO. American Tourist Daring Rescue." Who is the hero of Mapo Bridge? And beneath the headlines, in the comments sections and forum threads and social media posts, the questions turned ugly. Why was a foreigner there so late at night? Seems convenient. Maybe she knew his route. Black woman saves Korean billionaire. Sounds like a setup to me. She's probably trying to get money from him. Gold digger. Keisha read them sitting in a cafe in Hongdae, coffee growing cold in front of her, nausea rising in her throat. She'd known there would be attention. The video had made that inevitable. But she hadn't expected this. The suspicion. The casual racism disguised as concern. The immediate assumption that her heroism must have an ulterior motive. Her phone buzzed. Her sister, calling from Atlanta. Keisha Marie Taylor, what the hell? Naya's voice was equal parts worried and impressed. You're trending on Twitter. Mom called me crying because she thought you'd died. I'm fine. Keisha rubbed her eyes. Just dealing with some unwanted attention. Unwanted? Girl, you saved a billionaire. That's movie stuff. You're going to... Nia paused. Wait, you sound weird. What's wrong? Nothing. Everything. I don't know. Keisha stared at her phone screen, at the comments still scrolling past. People are saying things, Nia. About me. About why I was there. Like I planned it or something. Those people can go straight to hell, Nia said flatly. You did something incredible. Don't let racist idiots on the internet make you doubt that. But it wasn't just the internet. Over the next 3 days, Keisha noticed things. A man in a dark jacket who appeared behind her in 3 different neighborhoods. A car that followed her subway line. When she switched trains randomly, the car was waiting at the next station. On Monday, she confronted her shadow directly. Why are you following me? She demanded in a quiet side street, rounding on the man in the dark jacket. He bowed slightly, uncomfortable. Ms. Taylor, I'm sorry. Mr. Yoon is concerned for your safety. There have been threats. Threats? Keisha's voice rose. What kind of threats? People online, saying things about you. Mr. Yoon wanted to ensure you were protected. I don't need protection. I need privacy. She pulled out her phone, found Mrs. Beck's number. The secretary had given it to her, just in case, and called. Tell your boss to call off his security. Now. An hour later, she was back in the penthouse. Taekjin stood by the same windows, wearing a different suit, but the same exhausted expression. You can't do this, Keisha said without preamble. You can't just assign people to follow me around like I'm some kind of project. People are threatening you, Taekjin replied, his voice tight. Because of me. Because you saved me. I'm trying to... To what? Control the situation? Make yourself feel better? She stepped closer, anger making her reckless. I am not your charity project, Mr. Yoon. I'm not some damsel who needs a knight in a $1,000 suit. I've been taking care of myself for 35 years, and I don't need you to start now. That's not what this is. Then what is it? He turned to face her fully, and something in his expression stopped her anger cold. He looked haunted. I can't sleep, he said quietly. Every time I close my eyes, I'm back in the water. I can't breathe. I'm drowning. And then I see your face, and I can breathe again. You saved my life, Ms. Taylor. The least I can do is make sure you don't suffer for it. Keisha's anger drained away, leaving only exhaustion. You can't protect me from everything. And you can't make this about owing me. It'll poison everything. Then what should I do? Nothing. She moved toward the elevator. Just let me finish my vacation in peace. 2 more weeks, and I'll be back in Atlanta, and you can forget any of this happened. But as the elevator doors closed, she saw his reflection in the mirrored interior, still standing by the windows, and she knew he wouldn't forget. Couldn't forget. Neither could she. Taekjin had a meeting in Gangnam on Wednesday morning. Routine, standard, the kind of negotiation he could navigate in his sleep, except that the route required crossing Hanam Bridge. and he hadn't crossed a bridge since the accident. Mrs. Beck sat beside him in the back seat, going over the contract terms, but her words faded to static as they approached the bridge entrance. Through the windshield, Taekjin could see the cables stretching overhead, the river below visible through gaps in the traffic. His chest tightened. "Sir?" Mrs. Bayek's voice seemed to come from very far away. "Are you all right?" He wasn't all right. His hands were gripping the leather seat so hard his knuckles had gone white. His breath was coming in short, sharp gasps that didn't seem to bring any oxygen. The driver merged onto the bridge, and suddenly Taekjin was back in the car, water rushing in, seatbelt locked, darkness closing in. "Stop the car," he managed. The driver, well-trained, pulled over immediately. Taekjin fumbled for the door handle, practically falling onto the shoulder of the bridge, and bent over with his hands on his knees, trying desperately to remember how to breathe. Cars rushed past. The Han flowed below, dark and indifferent, his vision tunneled. "I'm calling someone," Mrs. Bake said, phone already in hand. "No, don't." But she was already dialing. 20 minutes later, a taxi pulled up behind their car. Keisha climbed out, took one look at Taekjin, still standing by the railing, still struggling to breathe, and moved directly into his space. "Look at me," she commanded. Not a request, an order. Eyes on me, nowhere else. His eyes snapped to hers. "You're having a panic attack. You're not dying, even though it feels like you are. Your body thinks you're in danger, but you're safe. Do you hear me? You're safe." She took his hand, pressed it against her chest. "Feel my breathing. Match it. In through your nose, out through your mouth." She breathed, slow and deliberate, and Taekjin tried to follow. Failed. Tried again. His breath hitched, stuttered, then slowly began to even out. In, out, in, out. The tunnel vision receded. The roaring in his ears faded. "That's it," Keisha said softly. "You're doing great. Just keep breathing." They stood like that for 5 full minutes, his hand on her chest, her eyes holding his, traffic rushing past them like they didn't exist. Finally, Taekjin's breathing returned to normal. His legs felt shaky. He realized distantly that tears were running down his face. "I can't." He didn't know how to finish the sentence. "Can't cross bridges. Can't drive. Can't close my eyes without drowning." "PTSD," Keisha said. "Post-traumatic stress disorder. It's normal after something like what you went through. Have you talked to anyone? A therapist?" He almost laughed. "Men in my position don't see therapists. Men in your position jump off bridges because they're too proud to ask for help," Keisha countered. "You need to talk to someone. This won't go away on its own." Mrs. Beck approached carefully. "Sir, I've canceled the meeting. We should go home." But Taekjin was looking at Keisha with an expression that made her deeply uncomfortable. Gratitude, yes, but also something else. Something that looked like need. "Come with me," he said. "Please. I don't want to be alone." Every instinct told Keisha to refuse. This wasn't her job. This wasn't her problem. This man had resources, had people who could help him, didn't need a burned-out paramedic who was running from her own trauma. But she remembered the weight of him in the water, the way his hand felt against her chest just now, the raw vulnerability in his eyes. "Okay," she heard herself say. "Okay." Mrs. Beck drove them back to the penthouse. Taekjin sat in silence, staring at his hands. Keisha sat beside him, feeling the careful distance between them like a physical thing. At the penthouse, Mrs. Beck made tea, real tea, not the instant stuff, and disappeared with remarkable discretion. "I'm sorry," Taekjin said finally. They were sitting in his living room, an acre of expensive space between them. "You shouldn't have had to do that." "I'm a paramedic," Keisha reminded him. "Crisis intervention is literally part of my training." "It's more than that." He looked up, meeting her eyes. Twice now, you've saved my life. Once from the river, once from myself. You're not giving yourself enough credit. You got through it. I got through it because you were there." He stood, moved to the windows, pressed his forehead against the glass. "I haven't told anyone this, but the accident. It wasn't an accident." Keisha's breath caught. "What?" "The brakes were sabotaged. I had the car examined after. Clean cuts on the brake lines, done by someone who knew what they were doing." His voice was flat, emotionless. "Someone wants me gone, and I don't know who I can trust anymore." "Did you tell the police?" "No." He turned to face her. "If I admit someone is trying to kill me, I look weak. The board is already questioning my leadership. My mother is pressuring me to marry someone appropriate to stabilize the company's image. My half-brother thinks he should be CEO instead. If I show any vulnerability, they'll tear me apart. So you're just going to pretend everything's fine? Until what? They succeed next time?" Keisha stood, anger flaring. "That's the stupidest thing I've ever heard. You don't understand how this world works. I understand that you almost died. I understand that someone tried to murder you. And I understand that you're so terrified of looking weak that you're going to let them try again." She grabbed her bag. "You know what? You don't need a bodyguard. You need a therapist and a detective. I can't help you if you won't help yourself." She made it to the elevator before he spoke again. "You're right." She stopped. "You're right," he repeated, moving closer. "I'm so used to handling everything alone. I forgot that asking for help isn't weakness. It's survival." A pause. "Will you help me?" "I'm not a detective," Keisha said. "Or a therapist." "No, but you're honest. You don't want anything from me. You don't care about my money or my position. And right now, you're the only person I trust." It was the worst idea Keisha had ever heard. She should leave. Should book an early flight home. Should put as much distance as possible between herself and this man, whose life had become tangled with hers in ways neither of them understood. Instead, she said, "Okay, but we do this right. You get a therapist, you report the sabotage, and you stop trying to handle everything alone. Deal." He held out his hand. She shook it. And neither of them acknowledged the way his fingers lingered against hers, or the way her breath caught at the contact, or the fact that gratitude was rapidly becoming something far more dangerous. Over the next 2 weeks, Keisha's vacation transformed into something she couldn't name. She still stayed at the hostel, still explored Seoul during the days, but her evenings increasingly included stops at the penthouse. Sometimes Mrs. Beck was there, warm and maternal, telling stories about Taekjin's early days at the company that made him blush. Sometimes it was just the two of them, talking late into the night about everything and nothing. Keisha learned that Taekjin had studied architecture in London before his father's death forced him home, that his favorite food was his grandmother's kimchi stew, but he hadn't had it in 10 years because she'd passed and nobody made it the same way. That he played piano, though he never performed for anyone. That he'd been engaged once, to a woman chosen by his mother, and had broken it off 3 days before the wedding because he couldn't imagine spending his life with someone he didn't love. Taekjin learned that Keisha had wanted to be a doctor, but couldn't afford medical school after her father's business failed. That she'd become a paramedic instead, and loved it despite the trauma, the long hours, the impossible choices. That she wore a red emergency bracelet with her ID number, even on vacation, because she'd promised herself she'd never forget the people she couldn't save. That she'd come to Korea not just to travel, but to run from the memory of a child's face. 7 years old, curly hair, drowned in a neighbor's pool while the parents fought inside. They'd called 911 too late. Keisha had done everything right, everything she'd been trained to do, and the child had died anyway. "It wasn't your fault," Taekjin said quietly. They were sitting on his balcony, the city spread below them like scattered diamonds. "Logically, I know that." Keisha twisted the emergency bracelet on her wrist. "But knowing something and believing it are different things." "Yes," he agreed. "They are." She looked at him. Your father. Mrs. Beck mentioned he died when you were young. Taekjin's expression shuddered. Heart attack. Very sudden. I was 25, studying in London. By the time I got home, he was gone. I'm sorry. Don't be. He was not a good father. Brilliant businessman. Terrible parent. He took a sip of wine. He once told me that emotions were weaknesses, that successful men learn to cut them out like tumors. I spent 20 years trying to prove him right. And now? Now I'm sitting on a balcony with a woman who dove into a river to save a stranger, and I'm realizing that maybe the things my father taught me were lies. He turned to face her. You make me want to feel things, Keisha. That terrifies me. She should have stood up. Should have made an excuse and left. Should have maintained the careful distance she'd been guarding since the day they met. Instead, she said, You terrify me too. Why? Because you're looking at me like I saved more than your life, and I don't know if I can carry that weight. You're not carrying anything. He moved closer. This, whatever this is, it's not about debt. It stopped being about debt the first time you told me I was being stupid. Despite herself, Keisha laughed. You are frequently stupid. I know, it's liberating. The laughter faded. They were close now, close enough that she could see the scar still healing on his temple, the exhaustion that never quite left his eyes, the way he looked at her like she was oxygen, and he'd been drowning for years. We shouldn't, she whispered. I know. Your mother would hate me. The media would destroy me. Your board would see it as a scandal. I know. I'm leaving in 6 days. I know. His hand came up, fingers tracing the line of her jaw. But right now, you're here. And I'm here. And I'm so tired of doing what I should do instead of what I want to do. Keisha closed the distance between them. The kiss started gentle, questioning, giving both of them a chance to pull back. Neither did. It deepened, became urgent, became the kind of kiss that rewrote histories and demolished carefully constructed walls. His hands tangled in her braids. Her fingers gripped his shirt. The city lights blurred around them. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Taekjin pressed his forehead against hers. I can't ask you to stay, he said. It wouldn't be fair. I know. But I want to. I know that too. They stood there, holding each other, both knowing this was a complication neither of them could afford, and neither of them could resist. Somewhere in the penthouse, a phone rang. Taekjin ignored it. It rang again, insistent. Mrs. Beck appeared in the doorway, her expression apologetic. Sir, I'm sorry, but you need to see this. On her tablet, a news article was already spreading across social media. The headline made Keisha's blood run cold. Billionaire CEO's secret romance, Yoon Taekjin spotted with mysterious foreign woman. Below it, photos. Keisha entering the building. Keisha in the car with Taekjin. Keisha on the balcony, faces close together, clearly intimate. Who took these? Taekjin's voice was ice. I don't know, Mrs. Beck said. But they're everywhere. Twitter, Instagram, news websites. The board has already called an emergency meeting for tomorrow morning. Keisha felt her world tilting. This was it. This was the moment where her private life became public property, where her face became associated with scandal, where racist comments disguised as concern would multiply exponentially. I should go, she said. Keisha. No. This is exactly what I was afraid of. She grabbed her bag, moving toward the elevator. I'm not going to be the foreign woman who destroyed your reputation. I'm not going to be that story. You're not a story, Taekjin said desperately, following her. You're... What? What am I, Taekjin? She rounded on him. Because from where I'm standing, I'm about to become the gold-digging foreigner who seduced the poor, vulnerable CEO after saving his life. That's the narrative they're going to write. And I can't fight it. I don't have lawyers or PR teams or money. I just have me. The elevator doors opened. She stepped inside. "I'll fix this," Taekjin promised. But they both knew some things couldn't be fixed. Some things, once broken, stayed broken. The doors closed on his face, and Keisha rode down 30 floors feeling like she was drowning again. Except this time there was no one to pull her to the surface. The board meeting happened without Taekjin. He sat in the anteroom, Mrs. Beck beside him, listening to muffled voices argue his fate through thick wooden doors. Inside, 12 people who'd never risked anything were debating his character based on photographs and assumptions. His phone buzzed. His mother. "Do not answer that," Mrs. Beck advised. He answered anyway. "Mother. Explain." Matriarch Yoon's voice could have frozen the Han River solid. "Explain to me why I am seeing photographs of my son with an American woman all over the internet. Her name is Keisha. She saved my life. I know who she is. What I want to know is why you're risking everything your father built for a vacation fling. It's not a fling." The words came out harder than he'd intended. And father built this company on ruthlessness and emotional isolation, and look where it got him. Dead at 53 from the stress. Silence. Then, "Come to the house. Tonight. We need to discuss your future." She hung up before he could refuse. The board meeting ended. Taekjin's half-brother, Yoon Dae-hyun, emerged first, his expression carefully neutral. "Hyung," he said, using the term for older brother with just enough respect to be mocking. "Quite the scandal you've created. Did you take the photos, Dae-hyun?" "Why would I need to?" His younger brother smiled. "You did all the work yourself. But if you're looking for advice, I'd suggest ending this relationship quickly. The board is already discussing alternatives to your leadership." "Alternatives like you?" "I'm just here to serve the company's best interests." Dae-hyun walked past, then paused. "Though between us, Hyung, you could do better than a foreign paramedic. At least father's affairs were with women of appropriate standing." Taekjin grabbed his brother's arm, spinning him around. "Say that again." "Which part? The part about father's affairs or the part about your girlfriend being beneath you?" Dae-hyun's smile widened. "Oh, you didn't know? About father and his secretary? The one he loved more than mother, more than us? The one he was with the night he died?" "That's enough," Mrs. Baek said sharply, appearing between them. "Dae-hyun, leave." After his brother left, Taekjin turned to Mrs. Baek. "Is it true?" Her silence was answer enough. "How long did you know?" "I've worked for this family for 20 years, Mrs. Baek said quietly. "I know everything. Your father did have an affair. It lasted 5 years. And the night he died, it wasn't a heart attack, Taekjin. It was suicide. He drove his car off a bridge because he couldn't stand the pressure anymore. From the company, from your mother, from living a lie. The world tilted. You knew. All this time you knew, and you never told me. Your mother wanted to protect the family image. She made me swear never to tell you. So everyone has been lying to me for 18 years. Taekjin felt something inside him crack. Everyone. Not everyone. Mrs. Beck held his gaze. Keisha has never lied to you. Not once. She's been honest even when it hurt. That's rare, Taekjin. Rarer than you know. He thought about Keisha in the water, Keisha refusing his money, Keisha calling him stupid, Keisha's lips against his, Keisha disappearing into an elevator because she was trying to protect him. "I need to see her," he said. "The board wants you at your mother's house." "I don't care what the board wants." He was already moving toward the elevator. "For once in my life, I'm going to choose what I want. Not what I should want, what I actually want." He found Keisha at her hostel, packing. Her flight was still 4 days away, but she was folding clothes into her backpack with angry, jerky movements. She looked up when he entered the common room, her expression guarded. "You can't be here," she said. "Someone will take pictures." "Let them." He crossed the room. "I need to tell you something." "Taekjin, my father killed himself. 18 years ago, he drove off a bridge because he couldn't handle the pressure of being Yoon Taekjin's father and everyone covered it up to protect the family image. I just found out today. The words tumbled out, raw and unfiltered. And the first thing I thought was that I needed to tell you. Not my mother, not my brother, not the board. You. Keisha set down the shirt she'd been folding. I'm sorry. That's... God, Taekjin, I'm so sorry. He hated water too. After he was a child, he nearly drowned. And Mrs. Beck says he never went near the river again. I didn't know that. I didn't know any of it. He sat down heavily on the hostel couch. I'm turning into him, Keisha. Isolated, controlled. So afraid of being vulnerable that I'm drowning on dry land. She sat beside him, not touching, but close. You're not him. You're asking for help. You're going to therapy. You are going to therapy, right? I made an appointment. First session next week. Good. She bumped her shoulder against his. That takes courage. Not as much courage as jumping into a river at night. He turned to face her. Don't go. I know I have no right to ask. I know this is complicated and messy and potentially destructive. But don't go. I have a job, Keisha reminded him. A life in Atlanta. A sister who needs me. I can't just stay in Korea because we kissed once. What if it was more than once? Despite everything, she smiled. Still can't stay. Then come back. After your vacation ends, after you've gone home and thought about this without me pressuring you, come back. Not for me, for yourself. See if there's something here worth staying for. Your mother is going to hate me. My mother hates everyone. The media is going to destroy me. We'll handle it together. I'm not sure I can do this, Keisha admitted quietly. I'm not sure I'm strong enough for what this would take. Taekjin took her hand, pressed it against his chest, the way she'd done on the bridge. You dove into a river to save a stranger. You guided me through a panic attack. You told a billionaire he was being stupid. You're the strongest person I've ever met. Or the stupidest. Maybe both. They sat there, hands intertwined, both knowing this was a terrible idea and neither able to let go. Outside, Seoul continued its endless motion, indifferent to two people trying to decide if love was worth the cost. Finally, Keisha said, I'll think about it. That's all I can promise. I'll think about it. It would have to be enough. Matriarch Yoon's house was in Buamdong, a neighborhood where traditional Korean architecture met modern minimalism and price tags were never discussed, because only people who didn't need to ask lived there. Taekjin's childhood home was all sliding doors and careful gardens, a museum of his mother's taste and his father's money. His mother waited in the formal sitting room, wearing a modern hanbok in pearl gray, her hair pulled back so severely it must have hurt. She didn't stand when Taekjin entered. Sit. He remained standing. I can't stay long. You'll stay as long as necessary. She poured tea with movements so precise they looked rehearsed. The board called me today. They're questioning your fitness to lead. Again. Let them question. This isn't a joke, Taekjin. Your father built this company from nothing. He sacrificed everything. His health, his happiness, his life, to give you this legacy. And you're throwing it away for a woman you barely know. I'm not throwing anything away. I'm trying to live instead of just exist. Living? His mother's voice rose slightly, the only sign of emotion she'd permit herself. You call being photographed with a foreigner in compromising positions living? You call giving ammunition to your enemies living? Your brother is already positioning himself as the stable alternative. The board is listening. Daehyun is behind the sabotage, Taekjin said flatly. I know it, even if I can't prove it yet. He wants me gone. Don't be dramatic. Your brother is ambitious, but he's not a murderer. You don't know that. Just like you didn't know father was suicidal. Or did you know, mother? Did you know he was drowning and choose to ignore it to preserve the family image? The teacup in his mother's hand trembled slightly. What your father did was his choice. I loved him. I gave him everything, my youth, my name, my dignity. and he chose to drive off that bridge anyway. So yes, I protected his legacy afterward, because it was all I had left. The honesty staggered him. For the first time, Taekjin saw his mother not as the cold matriarch, but as a woman who'd loved a man who couldn't love her back, who'd built walls around her grief so high she'd forgotten how to climb down. "I'm sorry," he said quietly. "I'm sorry you've been carrying that alone. I don't want your pity. I want you to be smart." She set down the teacup. "I've arranged for you to meet the Han family's daughter. So-hee is educated, sophisticated, from a good family. A marriage alliance would stabilize the company and your position. The board would back off. Dae-hyun would lose his leverage." "No. Taekjin," I said no. "I'm not marrying someone I don't love to make the board comfortable. I'm not living father's life." "Then what are you going to do? Marry the American?" His mother's voice dripped disdain. "Bring her into this family, where she'll be torn apart by the media, questioned by the board, rejected by society. That's not love, Taekjin. That's cruelty. Maybe she's stronger than you think. Or maybe you're more selfish than your father was." His mother stood, the conversation clearly over. "I'm going to tell the Han family you'll meet their daughter. What you do with that meeting is your choice. But think carefully. Your decisions don't just affect you. They affect everyone in this family, everyone who works for this company. Can your American understand that? Can she handle that weight?" Taekjin left without answering, because he didn't have an answer. His mother was right about one thing. Bringing Keisha into his world would subject her to pressures and prejudices he'd never faced. Was love, if that's what this even was, worth that cost? His phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "Trouble at your lady's hostel. Reporters. Better hurry." He didn't recognize the number, but the information sent him directly to Itaewon. He arrived to find 3 reporters with cameras camped outside the hostel entrance, waiting. Inside, visible through the window, Keisha was arguing with the hostel manager. Taekjin pushed through the reporters. "Mr. Yoon, is it true you're involved with the rescue woman? Sir, comment on the board meeting? Are you planning to marry her?" And entered the hostel to find Keisha with her packed bags. "They're kicking me out," she said, her voice tight with controlled fury. "Too much attention. Bad for business. I have 3 hours to find a new place to stay. Come to the penthouse." "That's the worst idea I've ever heard." "You have a better one?" She didn't. An hour later, her bags were in his guest room, despite Mrs. Bayek's suggestion that the main bedroom had plenty of space, and Keisha was standing on his balcony, staring at the city like it was a puzzle she couldn't solve. "Your mother came to see me," she said without turning around. Taekjin's stomach dropped. "When?" "This afternoon, before the reporters showed up. She was polite. Terrifyingly polite." Keisha turned to face him. "She offered me $2 million to go home and never contact you again." "What did you say?" "I told her I wasn't here for money, that if I wanted to leave, I'd leave on my own terms." Then she said something that's been stuck in my head ever since. Keisha wrapped her arms around herself. She said, "My son thinks he's saving you, but maybe you're the one drowning him. Is that true? Am I making your life worse?" "No." Taekjin crossed to her, took her hands. "You're the first thing that's made my life feel real in years. Everything else is performance, meetings and contracts and maintaining the perfect image. But with you, I can be honest. I can be weak. I can be human. Your brother is using me against you. The board sees me as a scandal. Your mother wants me gone. How is any of that making your life better? Because I'd rather have a complicated life with you in it than a perfect life that's empty." Keisha looked at him for a long moment. Then quietly, "I turned down your mother's money, but I need to tell you something. My flight home is in 3 days, and I'm going to be on it." His chest tightened. "Because of my mother?" "Because I need space to think. Because this has happened so fast, and I don't trust decisions made in crisis. Because I need to go home and figure out if what I'm feeling is real or just adrenaline and trauma bonding. She squeezed his hands. But I'm not saying goodbye. I'm saying I need time. How much time? I don't know. A month? 2? Long enough to know if I'm making a choice or running from one. She pulled him closer. Can you wait that long? I've waited 43 years to feel like this. I can wait a little longer. They stood together on the balcony as the sun set over Seoul, holding each other against the gathering dark, neither knowing that in 3 days, everything would change again. Mrs. Beck found the evidence on a Wednesday. She'd been organizing Taekjin's office. He'd been distracted lately, leaving papers scattered, files unopened, when she found the mechanic's report wedged behind his desk. The official one had been brief. Brake line failure, possibly due to wear. But this was a second opinion, one Taekjin had commissioned privately, and its conclusion was damning. Deliberate sabotage, clean cuts consistent with professional tampering. She read it 3 times, feeling ice form in her chest. Then she kept reading and found the private investigator's preliminary findings. Security footage from the parking garage where Taekjin kept his car, date stamped 2 days before the accident, showing a figure in dark clothes accessing the vehicle. The footage was grainy, the figure's face hidden, but the investigator had noted, subject matches height and build of Yoon Dae-hyun. Mrs. Beck sat down heavily. She'd suspected, had known, in the way you know things you don't want to acknowledge. Dae-hyun's barely concealed ambition, his questions about Taekjin's schedule, his carefully neutral expression when the accident was announced. But suspecting and knowing were different things. She should tell Taekjin. Should put the evidence directly in his hands and let him decide what to do. But Taekjin was already drowning in stress. The board meeting, his mother's pressure, Keisha leaving in 2 days. Adding this weight might break him entirely. Instead, Mrs. Beck made a choice. She called Keisha. They met at a cafe in Samcheongdong, far from the office and the penthouse. Keisha arrived in a baseball cap and sunglasses, her paranoia about being photographed now routine. Mrs. Beck ordered coffee and slid the folder across the table. What is this? Keisha asked. The truth about the accident. Taekjin doesn't know I'm showing you this, but you need to see it before you leave. Keisha read in silence, her expression growing darker. When she finished, she looked up. His own brother tried to kill him. I can't prove it conclusively. But yes, I believe so. And Taekjin knows about the sabotage, but not about Dae-hyun being the suspect? He knows someone tampered with his car. He doesn't know the investigator identified his brother. I found this report today. Mrs. Beck folded her hands. I'm telling you because Taekjin won't protect himself. He'll confront Dae-hyun directly, without evidence, and Dae-hyun will destroy him through the board. But you're not bound by family loyalty or company politics. You can help him see clearly. Why are you really telling me this? Keisha asked. You could go to the police. You could tell the board. Because I've watched Taekjin slowly kill himself trying to live up to his father's legacy. And then you showed up. And for the first time in 20 years, I saw him want something beyond duty. I'm not letting him lose that because his brother is a murderous sociopath. Keisha laughed, startled. You don't hold back, do you? I'm 52 years old. I've earned the right to speak plainly. Mrs. Beck's expression softened. He needs you, Keisha. Not to save him. He needs to save himself. But to remind him that there's something worth saving for. His mother thinks I'm drowning him. His mother thinks everyone is drowning everyone else. It's how she's survived. Mrs. Beck finished her coffee. I watched his father die slowly from the pressure of being Yoon Taekjin's father. I won't watch the son do the same. So I'm asking you, don't let him face this alone. After Mrs. Beck left, Keisha sat in the cafe for another hour, staring at the folder, her coffee growing cold. Her flight was in 48 hours. She'd planned to spend her last 2 days saying proper goodbyes, getting distance, protecting her own heart. But Taekjin's brother had tried to murder him, was possibly planning to try again. And the man she'd saved from drowning was about to drown in a different way, in family politics and corporate warfare, and the weight of secrets. She pulled out her phone and called her sister. "I might need to change my flight," she said when Nia answered. "Why?" "Because the CEO I saved, his brother tried to kill him, and I'm the only person who can help him see it." Nia was silent for a long moment. Then, "Are you in love with him?" "I don't know. Maybe. Probably." "Does it matter?" "It matters because love makes us do stupid things. Heroic things, but stupid." A pause. "What does your gut say?" Keisha thought about Taekjin on the bridge, about his hand against her chest as he fought to breathe, about the way he looked at her like she was the only solid thing in his world. "My gut says he needs me." "Then stay." "But Keisha, be smart. Don't let him take you down with him." After hanging up, Keisha went directly to the penthouse. Taekjin was in a meeting. His calendar was deliberately packed these days, leaving no time to think about her departure. So she waited. When he finally emerged at 8 p.m., exhausted, he found her sitting in his living room with the folder open. "What is that?" he asked. "Sit down." He sat. She pushed the folder toward him. "Mrs. Beck found this in your office. Your private investigator identified your brother as the person who sabotaged your car." She watched his face as he read. Watched shock become denial, become cold. Terrible understanding. "Daehyun," he said finally. "My own brother. He wants you out of the company. Probably out of the family entirely." Keisha moved to sit beside him. "You need to go to the police. Now. With this evidence, they can do nothing," Taekjin interrupted. "This isn't enough for an arrest. The footage is grainy. There's no definitive proof. And if I accuse him publicly, he'll claim I'm trying to eliminate him as competition. The board will see it as family drama, and I'll look unstable." "So what? You're just going to let him get away with attempted murder?" "No. I'm going to beat him the way he's trying to beat me, strategically." Taekjin stood, pacing. "He's been feeding stories to the media, the photos of us, the speculation about my fitness to lead. He's been setting this up for months, maybe years. So I'll dismantle his credibility piece by piece until the board sees him as the liability, not me. That could take months. He could try again before then. Then I'll be careful." He turned to face her. "But I won't run. I won't hide. And I won't give up my company because my brother is a coward who can't build his own legacy." Keisha stood, moved into his space. "You're not alone in this. You know that, right? Mrs. Beck is on your side. I'm on your side. You have people who will fight with you. You're leaving in 2 days." "I know." She took his hands. "But that doesn't mean I'm abandoning you. It means I'm going home to settle my affairs, to think clearly, to make a real decision instead of one driven by crisis and adrenaline. 2 months, Taekjin. Give me 2 months, and I'll come back with an answer. What if the answer is no? Then at least we'll both know where we stand." She pulled him closer. "But I don't think it will be no." He kissed her then, desperate and fierce, like she was oxygen, and he'd forgotten how to breathe without her. When they broke apart, both shaking, he pressed his forehead to hers. 2 months, he agreed. "But promise me something." "What?" "Promise me you'll be honest. If you decide you can't handle this world, tell me. Don't disappear to protect me. I've had enough people in my life make decisions for me." "I promise." She kissed him again, softer this time. "Now show me that evidence again. If we're going to take down your brother, we need a plan." They spent the next 3 hours strategizing, and for the first time since the accident, Taekjin felt like he wasn't drowning alone. The emergency board meeting convened on Friday morning in the glass-walled conference room on the 42nd floor. 12 board members sat around the obsidian table, their expressions ranging from concerned to openly hostile. Taekjin entered last, Mrs. Bayek at his side, and took his seat at the head of the table. Daehyun sat 3 seats down, his expression carefully neutral. "Gentlemen," Taekjin began, "thank you for coming on short notice. I understand there are concerns about recent media attention." "Concerns?" Chairman Park, the eldest board member, leaned forward. "Your personal life has become a liability. The company's stock dropped 2% after those photographs surfaced. Our investors are questioning your judgment." "My personal life is exactly that. Personal. It has no bearing on my ability to lead this company." "It does when it affects our public image," another board member interjected. "You're involved with a foreigner, an American, someone with no understanding of our culture or business practices. What kind of message does that send?" Keisha, watching via the security feed from Mrs. Beck's office, she'd insisted on seeing this, on understanding what Taekjin was up against, felt anger rise in her throat. She'd expected this. But hearing it stated so baldly, so matter-of-factly, made it real in a way she hadn't anticipated. "It sends the message that I'm a human being," Taekjin said evenly, "with human connections and human feelings. Something this board seems to have forgotten is possible." "Don't be naive," Chairman Park snapped. "You're not just a human being. You're the face of Yoon Industries. Every decision you make reflects on us. And right now, your decisions are making us look weak." Daehyun chose that moment to speak. "Perhaps we should discuss the broader pattern." His voice was smooth, sympathetic. "The accident, the missed meetings, the distraction. Hyung, we're all concerned about you. Maybe you need time to recover, to step back temporarily while you heal. I'm perfectly capable of leading this company. Are you?" Daehyun pulled out a tablet, swiping through screens. "You've canceled 4 major meetings in the past 3 weeks. You've been late to board presentations. Your quarterly report was submitted 2 days past deadline. These aren't the actions of a focused leader." "I was in a car accident," Taekjin said tightly. "Someone sabotaged my brakes and tried to kill me. I think I'm entitled to some recovery time." The room went silent. Finally, Chairman Park said, "Sabotage? That's a serious accusation. Do you have proof?" "I have a mechanic's report showing deliberate tampering. I have security footage showing someone accessing my vehicle 2 days before the accident. I filed a police report." "But no arrests?" Daehyun asked, his expression the picture of concerned confusion. "No suspects?" "Forgive me, Hyung, but this sounds like paranoia. Perhaps the stress of leading the company, combined with the trauma of the accident, is affecting your judgment." It was masterful. Taekjin could see it playing out exactly as Daehyun had planned. Plant the seed of doubt, position himself as the concerned brother, make Taekjin look unstable without saying anything directly incriminating. "My judgment is fine," Taekjin said coldly. "What concerns me is that someone in this company wanted me dead badly enough to cut my brake lines, and I intend to find out who." "Perhaps that's exactly why you should step back," Chairman Park suggested. "Let the police handle the investigation. Take some time to recover, both physically and mentally. We can appoint an interim CEO." "Absolutely not. Taekjin, be reasonable." "I said no." He stood, planting his hands on the table. "I built this company alongside my father. I've given it 20 years of my life. I'm not stepping aside because someone tried to murder me and my board is more concerned about stock prices than my safety." "We're concerned about your well-being," Daehyun said smoothly, "and the company's stability. Those two things aren't mutually exclusive. Aren't they?" Taekjin looked directly at his brother. "Because from where I'm standing, it seems like someone benefits considerably from my instability. Someone who's been positioning himself as the responsible alternative. Someone who's been feeding stories to the media about my personal life to make me look unfit." Daehyun's expression didn't change, but something flickered in his eyes. "Are you accusing me of something, Hyung?" "I'm saying that whoever is behind this sabotage has been very strategic, very patient, and very close to the inner workings of this company." "That's enough," Chairman Park interrupted. "This meeting is about your fitness to lead, not conspiracy theories. We're going to take a vote. All in favor of appointing an interim CEO while Taekjin takes a medical leave, Raise your hands." 4 hands went up, then 5, 6, 7. Taekjin felt the ground shifting beneath him. He was losing. Daehyun hadn't even needed to orchestrate it. The board was doing it for him, convinced that they were acting in the company's best interest. Then Mrs. Beck entered the conference room, tablet in hand. "Gentlemen, before you vote, there's something you should see." "Mrs. Beck, this is a closed meeting. This is security footage from the parking garage," she continued, projecting the video onto the conference room screen. "Date stamped 2 days before the accident. Watch the figure approaching Taekjin's vehicle. Watch him spend 14 minutes underneath the car. And watch him leave." The room watched in silence. The figure was partially obscured, but the build, the height, the gait were all identifiable to anyone who knew him. "Now watch this," Mrs. Beck said, pulling up a second video. The same figure entering the building 30 minutes later. The timestamp allows us to track him through the building's security system. She played the footage, the figure entering through a side door, moving through corridors, finally entering an office. When he turned, his face was clearly visible on camera. "Daehyun." The conference room erupted, board members shouting questions, demanding explanations. Daehyun sat frozen, his carefully constructed mask finally cracking. "You tried to kill me," Taekjin said quietly. "Your own brother. You were destroying father's legacy," Daehyun said, his voice shaking with sudden rage. "Weak, distracted, more concerned with your feelings than with the company. Someone had to save it. By murdering me? By removing an obstacle." Daehyun stood, his composure completely shattered. "I built this company as much as you did. I worked just as hard, sacrificed just as much. But I'll always be the bastard son, won't I? The one father only acknowledged because mother made him. You got everything handed to you. The name, the position, the respect. I had to claw for every scrap. So you decided to kill me?" Taekjin's voice was ice. "I decided to save the company from your weakness." Daehyun looked around the table. He's soft, sentimental, getting involved with a foreign woman, making us look foolish. Father would have been ashamed. Father killed himself because he couldn't handle the pressure of being what everyone expected, Taekjin shot back. He drove off a bridge because he'd rather die than ask for help. Is that who you want to emulate? The room went silent. Chairman Park looked between the brothers, his expression grave. "Daehyun, I'm afraid we have no choice but to remove you from the board and turn this evidence over to the police. You can't. We can, and we will." Park turned to Taekjin. "I apologize. We should have taken your concerns more seriously. The vote is rescinded. You remain CEO, effective immediately." Security escorted Daehyun from the building. As he passed Taekjin, he leaned in close. "This isn't over. You think exposing me solves everything? Wait until the media gets hold of this. Wait until they start asking why your own brother wanted you dead. Your precious American won't want anything to do with the mess that's coming." Then he was gone, and Taekjin was left standing in the conference room, victorious and utterly exhausted. Mrs. Beck approached quietly. "Keisha is waiting for you, in your office." He found her standing by the windows, arms wrapped around herself. When she turned, her eyes were bright with unshed tears. "I watched the whole thing," she said. "Your brother really tried to kill you." "Yes. And now it's going to be everywhere. The news, the media, the speculation." "Yes. Your mother is going to lose her mind." "Probably." He crossed to her, pulled her into his arms. "Are you having second thoughts?" "About what?" "About me. About this. About coming back in 2 months." Keisha was quiet for a long moment. Then, "Your brother said something at the end, about me not wanting to deal with the mess. And he's right, that there's going to be a mess. But what he doesn't understand is that I didn't pull you out of that river because your life looked easy. I pulled you out because everyone deserves a chance to keep living, mess and all. So that's a no on the second thoughts? That's a, ask me again in 2 months. She pulled back to look at him. You need time to deal with this. With your brother's arrest, with the media storm, with everything that's about to happen. And I need to go home, tie up loose ends, and figure out if I'm strong enough for this life. You're the strongest person I know. Then I'll prove it by being honest. She kissed him softly. My flight is tomorrow morning, and I'm going to be on it. Not because I'm running away, but because we both need space to handle what comes next. He wanted to argue, wanted to ask her to stay, to forget Atlanta, to build a life here with him. But he'd promised to let her choose freely, without pressure. 2 months, he agreed. And then? And then we'll see if what we have is strong enough to survive the real world. They spent her last night in Seoul on his balcony, talking until dawn, memorizing each other's faces, building a foundation strong enough to last 2 months of distance and doubt. When she left for the airport the next morning, neither of them said goodbye. Goodbyes were for endings, and this felt like a beginning, terrifying and uncertain, but a beginning nonetheless. The story broke 3 hours after Daehyun's arrest. Billionaire CEO's brother arrested for attempted murder, screamed the headlines. Family dynasty torn apart by jealousy and betrayal. Yoon Industries in crisis as fratricide plot exposed. And beneath those headlines, in smaller print but just as damaging, CEO's American girlfriend allegedly at center of family dispute. Foreign woman sparks deadly family rivalry. Who is Keisha Taylor, and why does she keep showing up? Park Ji-won, the tabloid reporter who'd been covering the story since the rescue, sat in her cramped apartment reviewing her notes. She'd been the first to identify Keisha in the viral video. She'd taken many of the photographs of Keisha and Taekjin together. She'd written articles with headlines like Foreign Rescue Woman Seeks Fortune and CEO's Questionable Judgment After Near-Death Experience. She'd done it all for Daehyun, who'd been feeding her information, giving her access, promising her the career-making exclusive she'd always wanted. And now Daehyun was under arrest, and Ji-won was left holding evidence of her own complicity. Her editor called. The Yoon story. We need a follow-up. Public wants to know about the brother's motive, about the relationship between the CEO and the American. Get me something explosive. Ji-won thought about the interview she'd conducted with Daehyun 2 weeks ago, off the record. The way he'd described his brother as weak, compromised, distracted by a woman who didn't belong in their world. The way he'd framed Keisha as an opportunist, a problem, a convenient excuse for removing Taekjin from power. She'd believed him, had written her articles from that perspective, never questioning his motives, never considering that she was being used as a weapon. I'll get you something, she told her editor. But what she got wasn't what he expected. Instead of another sensationalist piece about Keisha's supposed manipulation or Taekjin's questionable judgment, Ji-won wrote the truth. She wrote about being approached by Daehyun 6 months ago, about the way he'd cultivated her as a source, feeding her strategic leaks designed to undermine his brother's reputation, about the payments she'd received, disguised as consulting fees, to write particular stories from particular angles. She wrote about the photographs she'd been told to take, the places she'd been told to wait, the narrative she'd been told to push. She wrote about her own complicity, her own ambition that had made her willing to destroy a stranger's reputation for a byline and a paycheck. And she wrote about the moment she'd realized what she'd done. Watching Taekjin have a panic attack live during a press conference about his brother's arrest, seeing the raw trauma in his face, understanding that she'd helped put him there. I'm a journalist, she wrote. But somewhere along the way, I forgot that journalism is supposed to reveal truth, not manufacture narratives. I let myself be used as a weapon in a family war. And an innocent woman, Keisha Taylor, who saved a man's life and asked for nothing in return, became collateral damage. The article went viral within hours. News outlets picked it up. Social media exploded. Suddenly, the narrative shifted, from Keisha as opportunist to Keisha as victim, from Taekjin as compromised to Taekjin as survivor, from Daehyun as concerned brother to to Daehyun as calculating villain. But the damage was already done. Keisha's name was permanently linked to scandal. Her face was recognizable to millions. Her privacy was gone. In Atlanta, Keisha read Jiwon's article on her phone while sitting in her childhood bedroom at her mother's house. She'd been home for 2 weeks, trying to readjust to her old life, and finding it impossible. Everything felt too small, too familiar, too safe after the intensity of Seoul. Her phone had been ringing constantly, reporters seeking interviews, producers wanting her story, strangers offering opinions about her life and choices. She'd deleted social media, changed her number twice, and still the attention found her. "You could sue," Nia suggested, sitting on the bed beside her. "For defamation or invasion of privacy or something. That reporter admitted she was paid to write lies about you." "What would suing accomplish?" Keisha asked tiredly. "More attention? More headlines? American woman sues Korean media would just make everything worse. So you're just going to take it? I'm going to wait until people find something else to care about." Keisha set down her phone. "In a month, there'll be another scandal, another story. I'll become old news. And then what? You go back to Seoul?" "I don't know." Keisha lay back on the bed, staring at the ceiling. Taekjin calls every day, texts every night, sends flowers. He's been cleared by the board, his brother is facing criminal charges, and by all accounts, he's handling it well. His therapist says he's making progress with the PTSD, but I see the photos. Him leaving the courthouse, him at press conferences, him surrounded by lawyers and bodyguards and people whose job is to manage his image. And I think about walking into that world permanently, and I don't know if I can do it. Because you're scared? Because I'm realistic." Keisha sat up. "I'm a paramedic from Atlanta who saved a man's life. That doesn't qualify me to be a billionaire's partner, navigating corporate politics and family drama and media scrutiny. What happens when the romance wears off and we're just two people from completely different worlds trying to make it work? What happens is you figure it out. Or you don't." Nia took her hand. "But you won't know unless you try. And running away because you're scared of failure isn't like you." "I'm not running away. I'm being smart." "You're being terrified. There's a difference." Nia stood. "Look, I can't tell you what to do. But I know you've been miserable since you got home. You barely sleep. You keep staring at your phone like you're waiting for something. And every time Mom asks if you're okay, you lie and say you're fine. I am fine. You're heartbroken. And the only cure for heartbreak is either time or the person who broke your heart. So decide which one you want." After Nia left, Keisha pulled out her sketchbook, the one she'd carried through Seoul, filled with drawings of palaces and markets and bridges. She flipped to the last page, where she'd drawn Taekjin's face the night before she left. She'd captured him perfectly. The serious expression, the tired eyes, the hint of vulnerability he tried so hard to hide. Her phone buzzed. A text from Taekjin. "Day 43. 17 days until I see you again. Unless you've changed your mind, in which case I understand. Just tell me so I stop counting days like a lovesick teenager." Despite everything, Keisha smiled. She typed back, "Still coming. Stop counting days. It makes you seem desperate." His response was immediate. "I am desperate. I'm just trying to hide it with dignity." "How's that working out?" "Terribly. Mrs. Beck says I'm insufferable. The board says I'm distracted. My therapist says I'm making progress but also deeply annoying." "Sounds about right." Keisha hesitated, then added, "I miss you." 3 dots appeared, disappeared, appeared again. Finally, "I miss you too. More than I thought possible to miss another person. It's inconvenient. Very inconvenient. But also kind of wonderful?" "Yeah," Keisha typed. "Kind of wonderful." After they said goodnight, Keisha lay in bed thinking about choices and consequences, about fear and courage, about the difference between running away and protecting yourself. By morning, she'd made her decision. Matriarch Yoon's call came on a Tuesday morning. exactly 50 days after Keisha had left Seoul. Keisha was at work. She'd returned to her paramedic shifts, finding comfort in the routine, when her phone rang with an international number. Ms. Taylor. The voice was cold, controlled, unmistakably Taekjin's mother. We need to speak. Mrs. Yoon, I'm working right now. Then call me when you're not working. This concerns my son's future, and yours. The call disconnected. Keisha stared at her phone, dread pooling in her stomach. She called back that evening, after her shift, sitting in her car in the station parking lot. Matriarch Yoon answered on the first ring. Thank you for returning my call, she said, as if Keisha had had any choice. I'll be direct. My son has been offered a strategic marriage alliance with the Han family. Their daughter Sohee is intelligent, educated, from an appropriate background. The marriage would stabilize Yoon Industries, strengthen our position in the market, and repair the damage done by recent scandals. And Taekjin agreed to this? He doesn't know yet. I'm telling you first because I believe you care about him. And if you care about him, you'll understand that this marriage is what's best for him, for the company, and for his future. What's best for him is making his own choices, Keisha said tightly. Is it? Because his recent choices nearly got him killed. His brother tried to murder him because Taekjin was so distracted, so focused on his personal feelings, that he missed warning signs anyone else would have noticed. His judgment was compromised. By you. The words hit like physical blows. That's not fair. Fair. Matriarch Yoon's voice rose slightly. My son almost died. My family has been torn apart. Our company's stock has plummeted. The media has turned us into entertainment. And at the center of all of it is you. A woman he barely knows, from a world he doesn't understand, who saved his life once, and now thinks that entitles her to the rest of it. I never asked for anything from him. You didn't have to. Your presence asks for everything. It asked him to choose between his duty and his desires, between his family and his heart, between the life he's built and the fantasy you represent. A pause. Do you know what happens if he marries you? The board will see it as a final proof of instability. His business partners will question his judgment. His mother will be humiliated. And you'll be trapped in a world that will never accept you, will always see you as the foreign woman who doesn't belong. Maybe I'm stronger than you think. Maybe you are. But strength isn't the question. The question is, do you love my son enough to want what's best for him, even if that means letting him go? Keisha closed her eyes. You're asking me to break his heart to save his career? I'm asking you to be honest about what you can offer him. Love isn't enough, Ms. Taylor. Not in this world. Love doesn't stabilize companies or repair reputations or navigate the politics required to survive at this level. Sohee can give him all of that. What can you give him? After the call ended, Keisha sat in her car for an hour, shaking. Because the terrible thing was that Matriarch Yoon had articulated every fear Keisha had been nursing since she'd left Seoul. The fear that she wasn't enough, that her love wasn't enough, that she'd be asking Taekjin to sacrifice too much for something that might not survive the pressure. She called Taekjin that night. He answered on the first ring, his voice warm with relief. I was starting to think you'd forgotten about me. Never. She took a breath. Your mother called me. His warmth evaporated. What did she say? That you've been offered a marriage arrangement, that accepting it would be best for the company, that I should let you go. Silence. Then, she had no right to contact you. Is it true? About the marriage proposal? The Han family approached my mother, yes. I haven't agreed to anything. I'm not going to agree to anything. I told you, I'm not marrying someone I don't love. But maybe you should. The words tasted like ash. Maybe your mother is right. Maybe what we have isn't sustainable in your world. Maybe I'm asking you to sacrifice too much. Keisha, don't do this. Do what? Be realistic? Taekjin, I've been home for almost 2 months and nothing has changed. I'm still getting messages from reporters. Still seeing my face attached to articles about your family drama. Still being called a gold digger and an opportunist by strangers on the internet. And I'm not even there. What happens when I come back? When I'm actually in Seoul, visible, undeniable? It'll get worse. So we'll handle it together. How? You can't protect me from everything. You can't control the narrative or stop people from having opinions or make the board accept me. And I don't want to spend my life as the controversial choice you made that people are constantly using against you. You're not a choice. You're the choice. The only one that matters. Keisha felt tears sliding down her face. 10 days. I'm supposed to fly back in 10 days. And I don't know if I can do it. Then don't. His voice was rough. Don't come back because you think you owe me something. Don't come back out of obligation or guilt. Only come back if you genuinely believe we can make this work. And if you don't believe that, then tell me now. Let me move on. Is that what you want? To move on? What I want is you. But I want you to want this too, without reservations, without fear. I want you to choose this life, and me, because it's what you genuinely want. Not because you're too stubborn to quit or too guilty to walk away. He took a shaky breath. I love you, Keisha. I've been in love with you since the night you pulled me out of that river and told me to breathe. But I won't trap you in a life that makes you miserable. So decide. Really decide. And whatever you choose, I'll accept it. After they hung up, Keisha sat in her dark car and cried for everything. For the impossibility of it. For the love she felt, and the fear that came with it. For the choice she had to make between safety and happiness. Her phone buzzed. A text from Nia. Whatever you decide, I support you. But for what it's worth, I've never seen you look at anyone the way you looked at him in those photos. Not once. Not ever. Keisha pulled up the photos, the ones that had caused such scandal, such scrutiny. There she was on Taekjin's balcony, faces close together, clearly intimate. And Nia was right. The way she was looking at him, it wasn't gratitude or obligation, or even simple affection. It was love, raw and undeniable. The kind that didn't calculate costs or measure consequences. The kind that simply was. She opened her laptop and looked at her flight confirmation. Seoul. 10 days. Refundable until 48 hours before departure. Her finger hovered over the cancel button. She thought about matriarch Yoon's words, about duty and practicality, and making the smart choice. Then she thought about Taekjin on the bridge, unable to breathe until she gave him permission. About his hand on her chest, matching his breathing to hers. About the way he'd looked at her like she was the only solid thing in his dissolving world. She closed the laptop without canceling. 10 days. She had 10 days to be sure. The announcement came 7 days before Keisha's flight. Yoon Industries CEO to wed Han family heiress in strategic alliance, read the headline. Below it, a photograph of Taekjin and a beautiful Korean woman. Han So-hee, elegant and poised, standing together at some formal event. They weren't touching, but the framing suggested intimacy, partnership, belonging. Keisha read the article 3 times, each word landing like a punch to the sternum. Yoon Taekjin, CEO of Yoon Industries, has announced his engagement to Han So-hee, daughter of Han Industries chairman. The alliance is expected to strengthen both companies' market positions and restore confidence in Yoon's leadership following recent family turmoil. The couple will marry in a private ceremony next month. When asked about the engagement, Yoon stated, "I'm committed to doing what's best for the company and my family's legacy." Her phone was ringing. Nia, Mrs. Beck. Unknown numbers that were probably reporters. Keisha ignored all of them, sitting frozen in her apartment, staring at the photograph of Taekjin with another woman. He'd given up, or she'd driven him to give up. Either way, the result was the same. Finally, she answered, when Mrs. Beck called for the 5th time. "It's not what you think," Mrs. Beck said immediately. "It looks pretty straightforward. He's engaged to someone else. He's trapped." His mother scheduled the press conference without telling him. invited the Han family, made the announcement public before he could refuse. By the time he knew what was happening, it was already done. He could have denied it, could have walked out, and humiliated the Han family, created an international incident between two major corporations. Keisha, this is Korea. Public relationships function differently. Once an announcement like this is made, breaking it requires enormous justification. Like being in love with someone else? Mrs. Baek was quiet for a moment. He tried. He told his mother he was in love with you. She told him you'd already decided not to come back, that you'd called her, said you couldn't handle this life, asked her to arrange a marriage for him so he could move on. Ice flooded Keisha's veins. I never said that. She called me, tried to convince me to leave him, but I never agreed. I never told her I wasn't coming back. I know, but Taekjin doesn't. She told him you'd made your choice, and he should make his. So he agreed to the engagement. Mrs. Beck's voice was urgent. Keisha, the actual engagement party is happening tonight, 7 p.m. Seoul time, at the Grand Hyatt. If you're going to stop this, you need to do it now. Me? I'm in Atlanta. My flight isn't for 6 more days. Then change your flight. There's a flight leaving Atlanta at 3 p.m. your time. Gets you to Seoul by 6 p.m. tomorrow our time. You'll miss the engagement party, but you can get to him afterward. Mrs. Baek? Don't think. Just decide. Are you going to let Matriarch Yoon win, or are you going to fight for him? After hanging up, Keisha sat motionless for 10 minutes. Then she grabbed her phone and called the airline, changed her flight, called her supervisor, requested emergency leave, threw clothes into a suitcase without really seeing what she was packing. Nia appeared in her doorway. I heard you on the phone. You're going? I'm going. Thank God. I was about to buy the ticket for you. Nia grabbed the suitcase, started packing properly, organizing, folding, making sure Keisha had everything she needed. What are you going to do when you get there? I have no idea. That's the Keisha I know. Nia zipped the suitcase. Go get your CEO. Show his mother that you're not backing down. And if anyone gives you trouble, remember you literally jumped into a river at night. You're the bravest person I know. The flight was endless. Keisha couldn't sleep, couldn't eat, could only watch the flight tracker as they inched across the Pacific. 13 hours. She'd arrive in Seoul at 6 p.m. on Friday, 1 hour after the engagement party started. She texted Mrs. Beck, I'm coming. Flight lands at 6. Can you stall? The response came immediately. I'll try. But Keisha, when you get here, don't be polite. Don't be appropriate. Be honest. It's the only thing that will cut through all the politics and pretense. The plane landed at 5:58 p.m. Keisha cleared customs in record time, caught a taxi, gave the driver the Grand Hyatt address, and an enormous tip to drive fast. Seoul traffic was legendarily terrible, but the driver maneuvered through it with aggressive efficiency. At 7:23 p.m., Keisha arrived at the Grand Hyatt. The engagement party was in the grand ballroom. She could hear the music, the laughter, the clink of champagne glasses. Security stood at the entrance, checking invitations. Keisha didn't have one. I'm here to see Yoon Taekjin, she told the guard in English. He responded in Korean, something dismissive, a clear no. I don't care if I'm not on the list. Tell him Keisha Taylor is here. More Korean. The guard reaching for his radio, probably to call for backup to remove the crazy American woman. Then Mrs. Baek appeared, breathless, her usually perfect composure completely shattered. Let her through, she snapped in Korean, then in English to Keisha. You're late. They just announced the engagement officially. Toasts are starting. Take me to him. Mrs. Beck hesitated. Keisha, everyone is in there. His mother, the Han family, the board, the media. If you interrupt, it will be public. It will be messy. There's no taking it back. Good. I'm done being quiet. Keisha straightened her shoulders, still wearing jeans and a sweatshirt from the flight, her braids pulled back, no makeup. looking nothing like she belonged at a billionaire's engagement party. "Let's go crash an engagement." Mrs. Beck smiled, fierce and proud. "Follow me." They pushed through the ballroom doors together. The room was spectacular. Chandeliers and flowers and hundreds of guests in formal attire. At the front, on a raised platform, stood Taekjin in a perfect tuxedo, Han So-hee beside him in a traditional hanbok, Matriarch Yoon between them beaming with satisfaction. Chairman Han was mid-toast. "A partnership that will strengthen both families and both companies. To Taekjin and So-hee, may their union be prosperous and harmonious." "Wait." Keisha's voice cut through the ballroom. Every head turned. Conversation died. Someone dropped a glass, the crash echoing in the sudden silence. Taekjin's eyes found hers across the room, and the expression on his face, shock, hope, fear, love, told her everything she needed to know. "I'm sorry to interrupt," Keisha said, walking forward through the crowd that parted automatically. "But there's something I need to say." Except she wasn't at the airport anymore. She was here, in the middle of a ballroom full of Korea's wealthiest and most powerful, making a scene that would be talked about for years. Matriarch Yoon recovered first. "Security, remove this woman." "No." Taekjin's voice was quiet but absolute. He stepped down from the platform. "Let her speak." "Taekjin, don't be ridiculous." "Mother, I said let her speak." He moved through the crowd toward Keisha, stopping a few feet away. "You came." "I was always coming. Your mother told you I wasn't, but she lied." Keisha's voice shook, but she forced herself to continue, aware of hundreds of eyes on her. "I spent 2 months trying to talk myself out of this. Trying to be reasonable and practical and smart. Trying to convince myself that love wasn't enough. That I didn't belong in your world. That I'd only make your life harder." "Keisha, I'm not finished." She stepped closer. "Your mother called me, told me I should let you go, that I couldn't give you what you needed, that marrying me would destroy your career and humiliate your family. And part of me believed her. Part of me thought she was right." The crowd was riveted, smartphones out, recording every word. This would be everywhere within hours. Keisha didn't care. But then I realized something. Your father spent his whole life doing what was expected, being what everyone needed, sacrificing what he wanted for what was appropriate. And it killed him. Literally killed him because he couldn't stand the weight of being perfect anymore. She reached out, took Taekjin's hands. "I won't let that happen to you. I won't let duty and expectation and other people's opinions suffocate you until you forget how to breathe on your own." "So, what are you saying?" His voice was rough. "I'm saying I love you. I'm saying I choose this, even though it's terrifying and complicated and possibly the stupidest decision I've ever made. I'm saying I'm not backing down because your mother thinks I'm inappropriate, or because the board thinks I'm a scandal, or because society thinks we don't belong together." She pulled him closer. "I dove into a river to save your life once. I'll do it again, as many times as it takes. That's what you do when you love someone." Taekjin's hands tightened on hers. "My mother told me you'd decided not to come back, that you'd asked her to arrange this engagement. I should have known better, should have called you, confirmed it. But I was scared you'd actually decided to leave. And if I heard it from you directly, I wouldn't be able to survive it. I'm not leaving. I'm staying. I'm fighting. And if your mother has a problem with that..." Keisha turned to face Matriarch Yoon, who stood on the platform looking simultaneously furious and shocked. "Then she can say it to my face, instead of manipulating her son into a loveless marriage to protect the family image." "You have no right to speak to me that way," Matriarch Yoon said coldly. "I have every right. Your son almost died. He was sabotaged by his own brother, suffered PTSD, and instead of supporting him through it, you tried to force him into an arranged marriage while lying to both of us about what the other wanted. That's not protection. That's control. I was trying to save him from making a terrible mistake. No. You were trying to save yourself from embarrassment. You're terrified that if Taekjin chooses love over duty, it means your own marriage was a failure, that you sacrificed your happiness for nothing. So you're trying to force him to make the same sacrifice, to validate your choices. Keisha softened slightly. But Mrs. Yoon, your son is not your husband. He's stronger than you think. And love doesn't make him weak. It makes him human. The ballroom was silent. Matriarch Yoon looked at her son, at Keisha, at the hundreds of guests watching this family drama unfold. Then, surprisingly, she laughed. A short, bitter sound. "You're right," she said quietly. "About all of it. I've been so afraid of losing control, of watching my son make the same mistakes his father did, that I forgot to ask him what he actually wanted." She looked at Taekjin. "What do you want, truly?" Taekjin turned to Han So-hee, still standing on the platform looking gracious despite the chaos. "I'm sorry. You deserve someone who loves you completely. That's not me." So-hee nodded, surprisingly understanding. "I know. I've known since the moment you agreed to this. You had the eyes of a man doing duty, not choosing love. For what it's worth, I hope you're happy." Then Taekjin turned back to Keisha, pulled her close, and kissed her in front of everyone. The board, the media, his mother, hundreds of witnesses. It was a kiss that ended one life and started another, that chose love over expectation, that said clearly to everyone watching, "This is my choice, and I'm not apologizing for it." When they broke apart, the ballroom erupted. Some people clapping, some people talking urgently into phones, some people simply staring in shock. Chairman Han was arguing with Matriarch Yoon. Board members were conferring in worried clusters. And Park Ji-won, the reporter who'd exposed Daehyun's manipulation, was filming everything with an expression of vindicated delight. "This is going to be a nightmare," Mrs. Beck murmured, appearing at their side. "Probably," Taekjin agreed. He didn't let go of Keisha. "The board will be furious. The Han family will feel humiliated. The media will have a field day." "Definitely. Was it worth it?" Taekjin looked at Keisha, smiled, really smiled, for the first time since the accident. "Absolutely." They left the ballroom together, hand in hand, walking through a crowd that didn't know whether to celebrate or condemn them. Outside, Seoul spread before them in the darkness, a city of millions that would judge and speculate and eventually move on to the next scandal. But for now, in this moment, they were simply two people who'd chosen each other against all odds and all expectations. "So what happens now?" Keisha asked. "Now?" Taekjin pulled her close. "Now we figure it out together. No more secrets. No more lies. No more letting other people make our decisions. Your mother is going to make our lives difficult. My mother is going to come around eventually. She loves me, even if she has a terrible way of showing it. The board might try to remove you again. Let them try. I'm done being what everyone else needs me to be." He kissed her forehead. "Besides, I have the best legal team in Korea, and a girlfriend who literally dove into a river to save me. I think we can handle a few board members." Keisha laughed, feeling lighter than she had in months. "Girlfriend? I like the sound of that." "Me too." He pulled her toward the waiting car. "Come on, let's go home. Your place or mine? Our place. Because if you're staying, if we're really doing this, then it's not mine anymore. It's ours." As they drove through Seoul, Keisha watched the city lights blur past and thought about choices and consequences, about love and courage, about the difference between settling and fighting for what you wanted. She pulled out her phone, opened her social media, still deactivated from all the previous attention. She didn't reactivate it, didn't need to. Whatever storm was coming, they'd weather it together. Taekjin's phone, however, was exploding. Texts, calls, notifications scrolling endlessly. He glanced at it, then turned it off entirely. "Your board is probably calling," Keisha said. "They can wait until morning. Your mother is definitely calling. She can especially wait until morning. He laced his fingers through hers. Tonight, I just want to be with you. No distractions. No obligations. Just us. They arrived at the penthouse. Their penthouse now, apparently, and rode the elevator up in comfortable silence. Inside, nothing had changed and everything had changed. The space looked the same, but it felt different. Felt like possibility instead of isolation. I should probably shower, Keisha said. 13-hour flight. I'm disgusting. You're perfect. I'm sweaty and rumpled and wearing airport clothes to crash a billionaire's engagement party. And you've never looked more beautiful. But he waved toward the bedroom. Guest room is yours. Unless what? Unless you want to stay in the master bedroom with me. Not as a guest, as someone who belongs here. Keisha considered. They'd been apart for 2 months. They'd just dramatically reunited in front of hundreds of people. And despite all that, she felt nervous at the thought of sharing his space so completely. I'll take the guest room tonight, she said finally. But ask me again tomorrow. Tomorrow, he agreed. She showered, changed into clean clothes, and emerged to find Taekjin sitting on the balcony, staring at the city. She joined him, and they sat in silence for a while, just being together. Thank you, he said eventually. For coming back, for fighting for this, for being brave when I wasn't. You were brave. You just needed someone to remind you what you were fighting for. I was drowning, he admitted. Not in the river, in everything else. The expectations, the duty, the weight of being Yoon Taekjin. And then you showed up and reminded me I'm also just Taekjin. Just a person who wants to be happy. Are you happy? He turned to look at her, his expression open and vulnerable in a way she'd never seen. I'm getting there. With you, I think I actually might get there. They sat on the balcony until dawn, talking and planning, and occasionally just being quiet together. And when the sun rose over Seoul, painting the city in shades of gold and promise, neither of them felt like they were drowning anymore. They felt like they were finally learning to breathe. The bombshell report dropped 3 days after the engagement party disaster. Park Ji-won had been busy. After her initial article exposing her own complicity in Daehyun's schemes, she'd kept digging. And what she found was explosive enough to dominate news cycles for weeks. The full truth about the Yoon family scandal, a timeline of manipulation and murder, read the headline. Below it, a meticulously researched exposé detailing everything. Daehyun's years of subtle sabotage, the payments to journalists, the fabricated stories, the security footage from multiple locations showing him accessing Taekjin's car, and most damning of all, recorded phone conversations between Daehyun and board members discussing contingency plans if the brake tampering didn't work. Ji-won had obtained the recordings from one of the board members who'd grown a conscience, or possibly just realized he didn't want to go down with Daehyun. Either way, the evidence was irrefutable. Yoon Daehyun spent 18 months systematically undermining his brother's credibility, Ji-won wrote. He fed stories to the media portraying Taekjin as unstable. He cultivated relationships with board members, positioning himself as the rational alternative. He paid reporters, including myself, to write articles questioning Taekjin's judgment. And when that wasn't enough, he resorted to attempted murder. The article included everything: timestamps, bank transfers, witness statements from mechanics and security guards, even text messages between Daehyun and his co-conspirators discussing the best way to remove Taekjin from the equation. By noon, Daehyun's bail had been revoked. By evening, 3 board members had resigned in disgrace. By the end of the week, Daehyun was facing charges of attempted murder, corporate fraud, and conspiracy. Taekjin watched the news coverage from his office, Keisha beside him, Mrs. Bayek hovering protectively. How do you feel? Keisha asked quietly. Relieved, sad, angry. He turned away from the screen. He's my brother. I grew up with him. And he hated me enough to want me dead. How am I supposed to process that? You process it with your therapist and with people who love you. And you accept that sometimes people make terrible choices and it's not your fault. Mrs. Beck set down a cup of tea. For what it's worth, Dae-hyun didn't hate you. He hated what you represented. The legitimate son, the chosen heir, everything he thought he deserved but would never have. That's not about you. That's about him and his own demons. Doesn't make it hurt less. No, Mrs. Bach agreed. But it might help you understand that you couldn't have prevented this. He was going to self-destruct eventually. You just happened to be the target he chose. Taekjin's mother arrived unannounced that afternoon, sweeping into the penthouse with the same imperious energy she always carried. But something in her expression was different. Softer, maybe. Or just exhausted. I've spoken with the prosecutors, she announced without preamble. Dae-hyun will likely receive a 15-year sentence. They have recordings of him admitting everything. I know, Taekjin said quietly. Matriarch Yoon looked at Keisha, who stood by the windows, deliberately giving them space. Ms. Taylor, may I speak with you? Privately. Keisha exchanged a glance with Taekjin, who nodded. They moved to the balcony, sliding the door closed behind them. For a long moment, neither woman spoke. Then Matriarch Yoon said, I owe you an apology. Multiple apologies, actually. I lied to my son about your intentions. I tried to manipulate you into leaving. I underestimated you at every turn. Yes, Keisha agreed. You did. A ghost of a smile touched the older woman's lips. You don't make things easy, do you? Should I? You tried to buy me off. Then you tried to guilt me into leaving. Then you lied to both of us to force Taekjin into a marriage he didn't want. Why would I make anything easy for you? You wouldn't. Shouldn't. Matriarch Yoon looked out at the city. I've spent the past 40 years protecting this family's image. It became more important than the actual family. More important than my son's happiness or well-being. And now one son is going to prison for attempted murder. And the other nearly died because I was too concerned with appearances to see the danger right in front of me. You didn't make Dae-hyun sabotage that car. No. But I created the environment where he felt invisible, illegitimate, less than. I treated him like a liability instead of a son. And Taekjin, I loved him so much I tried to force him into the exact same prison that killed his father. She turned to face Keisha. You were right. At the engagement party. I was trying to validate my own choices by making him repeat my mistakes. So what now? Keisha asked. Now I do something I should have done years ago. I let my son live his own life, make his own choices, even when those choices terrify me. She met Keisha's eyes. Even when those choices include you. That's not exactly a ringing endorsement. It's honesty. You do terrify me, Ms. Taylor. Not because you're foreign or inappropriate or any of the reasons I claimed. You terrify me because my son looks at you the way my husband never looked at me. Like you're essential. Like losing you would break something fundamental. Her voice softened. I spent 40 years with a man who stayed with me out of duty. I don't wish that on anyone. Not even you. It was, Keisha realized, as close to acceptance as she was likely to get. Thank you for the apology. Don't thank me yet. I'm still going to make your life difficult. I'm still going to have opinions about everything. I'm still going to worry that you're not prepared for this world. A pause. But I'll try to remember that it's not my decision to make. They returned inside to find Taekjin on the phone. His expression grim. When he hung up, he said, That was the prosecutor. Dae-hyun wants to see me, before the trial. You don't have to go, Keisha said immediately. I know, but I think I need to, for closure, if nothing else. The meeting happened 2 days later, in a private room at the detention center. Taekjin insisted on going alone, but Keisha waited in the car outside, unwilling to be far away. Dae-hyun looked smaller somehow, diminished by the prison uniform and the weight of his choices. He sat across from Taekjin, separated by a table and an unbridgeable chasm of betrayal. Thank you for coming, Dae-hyun said. His voice was hoarse, stripped of its usual calculated smoothness. I almost didn't. I wouldn't have blamed you. Daehyun stared at his hands. I've had a lot of time to think about why I did it, about how I justified it to myself. And the truth is, Hyung, I was jealous. Pathologically, poisonously jealous. Of your legitimacy. Your confidence. The way Mother looked at you. Even the way Father ignored you. At least his ignoring meant you mattered enough to hurt. So you tried to kill me. I told myself I was saving the company, that you were weak, distracted, compromising everything Father built. But really, Daehyun looked up, his eyes hollow. I wanted you to hurt the way I'd been hurting my entire life. I wanted you to know what it felt like to be powerless, drowning, invisible. Instead, I literally drowned. And someone jumped in to save me. Someone who didn't care about my name or my company or any of the things you were so obsessed with. She just saw a person who needed help. You're American. Daehyun's smile was bitter. I thought she was a weapon I could use against you. Instead, she was the thing that saved you in every way that mattered. Her name is Keisha. And yes, she saved me. Multiple times. Including from becoming like you, so consumed by what I thought I deserved that I forgot what actually mattered. They sat in silence for a moment. Then Taekjin stood. I hope you get help. Real help. Therapy, medication, whatever you need. Because this... He gestured at the room, the situation, everything. This is what happens when jealousy turns into hatred. And I don't want to see you destroy yourself more than you already have. I destroyed myself the moment I cut those brake lines. Daehyun's voice cracked. I'm sorry, Hyung. I know it doesn't change anything. But I am sorry. Taekjin left without responding. Some apologies came too late, cost too much, meant too little. Outside, Keisha was leaning against the car, arms wrapped around herself despite the warm day. She looked up when he emerged, searching his face. How do you feel? She asked. Like I lost a brother I never really had. He pulled her into his arms, holding tight. But also like I gained something more important. A future that isn't defined by my past. They drove back to the penthouse in silence, hands intertwined, both processing the strange grief of surviving someone else's hatred. That night, lying in bed, Keisha had finally moved into the master bedroom, her clothes now sharing closet space with his, her presence making the penthouse feel like home. Taekjin said, Thank you. For what? For staying. For fighting. For being stubborn enough to crash my engagement party, and brave enough to face my mother and strong enough to love me despite everything that came with it. Keisha propped herself up on one elbow. You know this isn't over, right? Daehyun's trial will be public. The media will dissect everything. People will still have opinions about us. Your board will still be difficult. This isn't a fairy tale ending where everything magically becomes perfect. I know. So why are you thanking me? Because you chose me anyway. Despite all of that, you chose me. He pulled her closer. And I choose you. Every day. For as long as you'll let me. She kissed him, soft and slow. That's going to be a very long time. Good, he murmured against her lips. Because I'm not letting you go. Ever. Outside, Seoul continued its endless motion. Millions of lives intersecting, diverging, each person carrying their own stories of love and loss and survival. And in a penthouse overlooking the Han River, two people who should never have met, who came from different worlds and different lives, held each other in the dark and proved that sometimes, against all odds, love was enough. Not easy, not simple, but enough. The trial began on a cold Monday in November. Daehyun faced multiple charges: attempted murder, corporate fraud, conspiracy, and witness tampering. The prosecution had enough evidence to secure a conviction without Taekjin's testimony, but the prosecutors wanted him there anyway, for closure, for justice, for the symbolic weight of a brother testifying against a brother. Taekjin wore his most conservative suit and his most carefully neutral expression. Keisha sat in the gallery, 2 rows behind the family section, wearing a simple black dress and her emergency bracelet. Mrs. Bayek sat beside her, a quiet anchor in the chaos. The media circus was exactly as terrible as they'd anticipated. Cameras lined the courthouse steps, reporters shouted questions, protesters held signs, some supporting Taek-jin, some condemning him, some simply capitalizing on the spectacle with unrelated causes. Inside, the courtroom was packed. Matriarch Yoon sat in the front row, her face a mask of controlled grief. The board members who hadn't resigned sat together, looking uncomfortable. And at the defense table, Dae-hyun sat in an ill-fitting suit, looking nothing like the polished executive who'd orchestrated a murder attempt. The trial lasted 3 weeks. Witness after witness testified. Mechanics described the sabotaged brake lines. Security guards identified Dae-hyun in footage. Board members admitted to receiving payments for their cooperation. Park Ji-won took the stand and detailed every conversation she'd had with Dae-hyun, every story she'd been paid to write, every manipulation she'd been party to. And then Taek-jin testified. He described the accident in clinical detail. The moment he realized the brakes weren't responding, the impact, the water rushing in, the terror of knowing he was about to die. He described waking up to see Keisha's face, the stranger who jumped into a river to save him. He described the months of PTSD, the panic attacks, the nightmares. "Did you suspect your brother at any point?" the prosecutor asked. "Not initially. I suspected someone had tampered with my car, but I couldn't imagine it being Dae-hyun. Despite our differences, he was my brother. I thought that meant something." "When did you learn the truth?" "When my secretary found the private investigator's report identifying him as the suspect. Even then, I didn't want to believe it. I spent days trying to find alternative explanations, but the evidence was irrefutable. How did that make you feel?" Taek-jin was quiet for a moment. Betrayed, angry, sad, relieved that I finally knew who was trying to destroy me, but mostly just sad, because my brother hated me enough to want me dead, and I never saw it coming. The defense attorney, a sharp-eyed woman who clearly had an impossible job, tried to paint Dae-hyun as mentally unstable, driven to desperation by years of family rejection. She called psychologists who testified about adjustment disorders and personality conditions. She showed emails where Matriarch Yoon had been dismissive or cold to Dae-hyun while praising Taek-jin. "Isn't it true," the defense attorney asked Taek-jin during cross-examination, "that your mother always favored you over your brother?" "I don't know what my mother felt. I only know how she acted." "And how did she act?" "She expected perfection from both of us. But yes, she held me to a different standard. I was the legitimate heir. Dae-hyun was complicated. Complicated meaning illegitimate, meaning less than." "Objection," the prosecutor said. "Leading. Sustained." But the point was made. The defense was arguing that Dae-hyun had been driven to his actions by years of systematic dehumanization, that he was a victim of circumstances even as he victimized others. The jury didn't buy it. After 3 weeks of testimony, they deliberated for 6 hours. The verdict, guilty on all counts. The sentence, 18 years in prison, eligible for parole after 12. When the sentence was read, Dae-hyun showed no emotion. Matriarch Yoon closed her eyes briefly, a single tear escaping before she regained control. And Taek-jin sat perfectly still, processing the reality that his brother would spend the next 12 years minimum in prison for trying to kill him. Outside the courthouse, the media descended like locusts. "Mr. Yoon, how do you feel about the verdict? Do you have any sympathy for your brother?" "Ms. Taylor, are you relieved? How has this affected your relationship?" Taek-jin stopped on the courthouse steps, Keisha beside him, security surrounding them, directly at the cameras. "Today, justice was served. My brother made choices that nearly cost me my life and did cost him his freedom. I'm relieved that this chapter is closed, but I'm also sad that it had to end this way." A pause. "I hope everyone watching remembers that behind every headline is a real person. real trauma, real consequences. This wasn't entertainment. It was a family tragedy. And now we need space to heal. He took Keisha's hand and walked down the steps, ignoring the continuing barrage of questions. In the car, finally away from the cameras and the chaos, Keisha squeezed his hand. You did great. I feel numb. That's normal. Let yourself feel it. Whatever you need to feel. That night, Taekjin broke down. Not in public. Not in front of the board or the media or anyone who might see it as weakness. But in the privacy of his bedroom, with Keisha holding him, he finally let himself grieve. For the brother he'd lost, the family he'd never really had, the childhood that had been built on performance instead of love. I keep thinking about when we were kids, he said, his voice rough from crying. Before everything got so complicated. We used to play together, build things with blocks. He used to look up to me. And I don't know when that changed. When admiration turned into resentment, turned into hatred. It's not your fault, Keisha said firmly. You didn't make him cut those brake lines. You didn't make him manipulate the board or bribe reporters or plan contingencies in case murder didn't work. Those were his choices. But maybe if I'd been a better brother? No, don't do that. Don't take responsibility for his actions. You can be sad about how things turned out without blaming yourself for someone else's evil. He held her tighter. What if I turn out like him, or like my father? What if this family is just cursed to destroy itself? You're not cursed. You're just human. And humans make choices every day. To be kind or cruel, to build or destroy, to love or hate. You've chosen love. You've chosen to get therapy, to be vulnerable, to let people help you. That's the opposite of what your father did and what Daehyun did. How are you so wise? I'm not wise. I've just seen enough trauma to know that surviving it requires honesty. With yourself. With the people you love. You're not perfect, Taekjin. But you're trying. That's enough. They lay together in the dark. And slowly, Taekjin's breathing evened out. The grief would come in waves. Keisha knew that, had experienced it herself with every patient she'd lost. But tonight, at least, he could rest. The next morning, Mrs. Bayek arrived with coffee and newspapers. The headlines were predictably sensationalized. Yoon brother gets 18 years. CEO's emotional testimony seals brother's fate. American girlfriend stands by CEO through family tragedy. But there were other articles too. Editorials about the pressure of corporate dynasties, think pieces about family dynamics and jealousy, personal essays from people who'd experienced similar betrayals. The narrative was slowly shifting from scandal to tragedy, from entertainment to empathy. Public opinion is turning, Mrs. Baek observed. People are starting to see you both as survivors rather than participants in drama. That's good, Keisha said. But I don't really care about public opinion anymore. I care that Taekjin is okay. He will be. Eventually. With time and therapy and you. Mrs. Beck smiled. You're good for him, Keisha. I doubted it at first. Thought you were too much chaos for his carefully controlled world. But chaos was exactly what he needed. Someone to shake him awake, remind him he's alive. I didn't do anything special. I just refused to let him drown. That, Mrs. Beck said, is the most special thing anyone has ever done for him. Over the following weeks, life slowly returned to something resembling normal. Taekjin threw himself into work, restructuring the board, implementing new safety protocols, rebuilding relationships with investors who'd been spooked by the scandal. Keisha started teaching emergency response classes at a local community center, finding purpose in sharing her skills with others. They navigated the challenges together. His mother's periodic attempts to control them, the lingering media attention, the occasional racist comment online. It wasn't easy. It wasn't perfect. But it was real. And real, they were discovering, was better than perfect. 6 months after the trial, Taekjin made Keisha a proposition. They were having dinner on the balcony, something they did often now, finding peace in the ritual of sharing meals and conversation while the city sparkled below. Keisha was telling a story about one of her students, a teenager who'd been terrified of medical scenarios, but had just successfully performed CPR on a training dummy. She was so proud, Keisha said, smiling. Kept asking if she did it right, if the dummy would be okay. I told her the dummy was very grateful. Taekjin laughed. Then, without preamble, he said, "Move in with me, officially, not as my girlfriend staying over. As my partner building a life together." Keisha set down her wine glass. "I basically already live here. I know, but I want it to be official. Your name on the lease. Your furniture mixed with mine. Your life integrated with mine, not just visiting it." He reached across the table, took her hand. "I want mornings where we argue about who forgot to buy coffee. Evenings where we collapse on the couch too tired to talk. Lazy Sundays where we don't leave the apartment. All of it. The boring parts, not just the dramatic parts." "The boring parts are my favorite parts," Keisha admitted. "So is that a yes?" "It's a yes, but I have conditions." He raised an eyebrow. "Conditions?" "I keep working. My teaching gig isn't glamorous, but it matters to me. I'm not going to become a billionaire's trophy girlfriend who lunches and shops and has no purpose. I would never ask you to give that up. What else? Your mother doesn't get a key. We need boundaries." "Agreed. Definitely agreed. And you have to teach me Korean. Real Korean, not just polite phrases. If I'm going to build a life here, I need to actually understand what people are saying." "Deal. Though fair warning, Korean is notoriously difficult. I jumped into a river at night to save a stranger. I think I can handle verb conjugations." She paused. "There's one more thing." "What?" "I want to meet your father's grave. Pay my respects. I know he wasn't perfect, but he's part of your history. Part of what made you who you are. And if I'm going to understand you completely, I need to understand where you came from." Taekjin was quiet for a long moment. Then, "No one's ever asked to do that before. Is it okay if it's too personal?" "It's perfect. You're perfect." He pulled her up from her chair, into his arms. "Have I told you lately that I love you?" "Not since this morning." "Unacceptable. I love you. You're brilliant and stubborn and brave, and you make me want to be better than I thought I could be. That's a lot of pressure. You can handle it. You can handle anything." They visited his father's grave the following weekend. It was in a quiet cemetery on the outskirts of Seoul, traditional and beautifully maintained. Taekjin stood before the headstone, Keisha beside him, and for the first time in years, he talked to his father. "I thought I understood you," he said quietly. "Thought I knew why you did what you did, but I didn't. I was just repeating your patterns without understanding them." He took a breath. "I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to live differently, feel differently. I'm going to choose love even when it's complicated, choose vulnerability even when it's terrifying, choose happiness even when it's not what's expected." He placed flowers on the grave. "I'm going to break the cycle, Father. I'm going to be the son you couldn't be, the one who survives not by cutting out emotions but by feeling them fully. And I'm going to do it with someone who sees me completely and loves me anyway." Keisha took his hand. Together they bowed, a gesture of respect, of goodbye, of new beginnings. Driving back to the city, Taekjin said, "Thank you for coming with me, for understanding why I needed to do that. You don't have to thank me for being your partner. That's what partners do. They show up for the hard things. I'm not good at this yet, at letting people in, at asking for what I need. Good thing I'm patient." "Are you, though?" She laughed. "No, not even a little. But for you, I'm learning." Life settled into a new rhythm. Keisha officially moved in, her belongings transforming the penthouse from a bachelor's minimalist showcase into a real home. Her sketchbooks stacked on the coffee table, her emergency medical bag by the door, her music playing in the kitchen while she cooked, her laughter filling spaces that had been silent for too long. Mrs. Beck approved enormously. Matriarch Yoon approved grudgingly but sincerely, even going so far as to invite Keisha to a family dinner where she introduced her as my son's partner, without caveats or qualifications. The board accepted the relationship, mostly because Taekjin's leadership had stabilized the company and stock prices had recovered. A few old guard members muttered about propriety, but they were outvoted by pragmatists who cared more about profits than appearances. And the media, as predicted, moved on to newer scandals. Occasionally an article would surface, CEO and American girlfriend, 1 year later, but they were increasingly benign, even positive. The narrative had shifted from scandal to love story, from controversy to fairy tale. Except, it wasn't a fairy tale. Fairy tales ended at the wedding. Real life continued past happily ever after, into the messy complexity of building an actual partnership. They argued sometimes, about whose turn it was to do dishes, about whether to attend a corporate function or stay home, about Keisha's tendency to work too many hours, and Taekjin's tendency to bottle up stress until he exploded. But they also laughed. A lot. Taekjin discovered that Keisha was terrible at Korean, but excellent at making him laugh about her mistakes. Keisha discovered that Taekjin could cook exactly 3 dishes, all of them breakfast foods, and was absurdly proud of this limited skill. They built a life together, not the perfect, polished life that magazines featured, but a real one, full of compromise and growth, and occasional spectacular failures, full of quiet mornings and chaotic evenings and lazy weekends, full of love that was earned daily, not granted once and assumed to last forever. On the anniversary of the accident, they returned to Mapo Bridge. Not to the exact spot, that felt too morbid, but close enough to remember. 1 year ago, I was standing here trying to figure out how to feel something again, Keisha said. I was so numb, so lost, so convinced I'd broken myself beyond repair. And then you saved me, Taekjin finished. We saved each other. She leaned against the railing, looking at the river. I thought jumping in would give me redemption, prove I could save someone after failing that child. But what it actually gave me was purpose, a reason to keep trying, keep living, keep believing that sometimes broken people can heal each other. Are we healed? Taekjin asked. Getting there, day by day. She turned to face him. I still have nightmares about that child sometimes. You still have panic attacks when you're too stressed. We're both still works in progress. But we're progressing together. Exactly. He pulled out a small box. Keisha's breath caught. I'm not proposing, he said quickly. Not yet. That requires a better speech and probably permission from your family and 1,000 other things. But I wanted you to have this. Inside the box was a silver bracelet, similar to her emergency one, but engraved with coordinates. Mapo Bridge, he explained. The exact spot where you jumped in, where my life ended and started again. I'm not asking you to marry me yet, but I am asking you to remember that moment. Remember that we chose each other in the chaos, and we keep choosing each other every day after. Keisha put on the bracelet, feeling the weight of it beside her emergency one. 2 bracelets, 2 promises. One to never forget where she came from. One to always remember where she was going. When you do propose, she said, it better be more romantic than this. Oh, I have plans. Elaborate plans. Mrs. Baek is already helping me coordinate. Your secretary is helping you plan a proposal? She has opinions about everything. Did you expect this to be different? Keisha laughed, the sound carrying across the water. I guess not. Okay. Surprise me, but not too much. I'm not good with surprises. Noted. Romantic but predictable proposal. I can work with that. They walked back to the car hand in hand, leaving the bridge behind but carrying its memory forward. 1 year ago, 2 strangers had collided in dark water. Now they were partners, building a future, one honest conversation, one shared meal, one quiet morning at a time. It wasn't the ending. It was barely even the beginning. But it was real, and messy, and worth every difficult moment it had taken to get there. And sometimes, that was the most romantic thing of all. The end. But not really. Because love isn't an ending. It's a continuous choice. And Keisha and Taekjin chose each other every morning when they woke up tangled together. Every evening when they shared stories about their day. Every moment when vulnerability would have been easier than honesty, and they chose honesty anyway. His life changed forever that night on the bridge. But what he didn't know then was that hers would never be the same either. She'd dived in to save a stranger and emerged with a partner. He'd drowned and been reborn into a life where emotions weren't weaknesses, but strengths. Two worlds that should never have met became one. Because sometimes saving someone means letting them save you back. This is their story. And while this chapter closes, their actual story continues every day in the small moments, the quiet choices, the steady certainty that they're better together than they ever were apart. Water destroyed them once, but it also brought them together. And now they walk through rain without umbrellas, accepting vulnerability as the price of love and finding it worth every drop.